All right. Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, January 11th, 2024, episode 2, Hannon's Canon. I'm here with John Rostano and myself, Dennis Hannon. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. How are you, John?
I'm good.
Did you have
Good
a good
evening.
Christmas?
What's that?
You had a good Christmas and
Yeah,
New Year?
yeah. It was good. It was all right. I stayed healthy. I know a lot of people got sick, a lot of flu and stuff going on, and bad weather right now, supposedly this weekend for us up here.
It's terrible. So I had COVID on Christmas, and then
Yep,
I had a stomach bug on New Year's. So
yep.
that was
That was terrible. I know. I know.
yeah.
Did you get COVID? How did COVID? How was it? Was it bad? What, like, we have the headache, the sore throat, or what did you
I
have?
I had a really high fever, and because I had a high fever, I had a ton of other stuff happen too, like like the headache, the body chills, um, everything that comes with a fever. But once I got that under control, I was fine. And to be honest with you, if I didn't test for COVID, I would have just thought I had a flu.
Right.
It was the first time I've had it, so.
Oh, good for wow. And we suffered through it twice. And Robin got it really, really good the one time. Really good. I mean, like the headache, it was months. It was just a joke. And it was right in the heart of it. It was like 2020, it was right in there.
Yeah,
So what
yeah, that sucks.
joke.
Well, I'm
And
glad that we're all here and we're all
yep,
healthy. We're still kicking. It's going to take
yep.
more than COVID to get me down. Uh, so we have a good show planned lined up here. We'll do an update on the Israel-Palestine stuff. We got some election integrity, climate change, January 6th, and then we'll talk. And if it's a great discussion, we'll keep going with it. And I have some other topics as well. And whatever we don't get to, we'll save it for the next show. So I guess we'll kick off here right down the list. We'll do Israel Palestine first. Have you been following this, John, at all?
I was really following it for a while. I will have to say, in the last couple weeks, I've probably dropped away a little bit. I not as intensely as I was. I kind of got tired of it a little. But no, I've dropped off. But the last 2 weeks I've dropped. Yeah.
Well, there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Christopher, how are you? There's so much going on. I mean, how do you keep track, right? I mean,
Right.
I think that a lot of people are getting the Ukraine fatigue. Zelensky is desperately making his plea for more money and guns. Otherwise, he's going to hold off his elections, which doesn't sound very democratic. But then again, when you look at the widespread corruption in Ukraine and I mean, they're the human trafficking capital in that area. So it doesn't really surprise me. So he's out there on a fundraising campaign as usual. And he's like, look at me. But we have other wars going on, which, so I've been following the Palestine stuff here and there. John, it's exactly what we said it would be when we talked about this on Citizens United. It is scaling into a more regional conflict in that area. What's going on over there? And it makes we're getting involved even more so. It's terrible because you have the strengthening of the BRICS nations over there. We just added 6 more nations to the bloc. Okay, so now the BRICS bloc consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And let me tell you, ever since they're basically trying to replace the U.S. petrodollar over there with how oil is traded with the Chinese yuan. And as we see a strengthening of these BRICS nations, they're going to slowly, they already are, they're devaluing our U.S. currency over there because we're no longer the dominant currency for trade as it relates to oil and other commodities. But it's interesting because a part of this bloc, right, you have Iran and Saudi Arabia. Now, we know that the Saudis and Iran are backed by the Houthis, they're called. It sounds like Houthi, but it's actually pronounced Houthi. So, there's more widespread conflict in this area. You're starting to see these different factions of terrorist extremist organizations like Hamas and the Houthi. You have Islamic Jihad, all of those. And really, while they might not have some things in common, what they do have in common is they want to see death to America. They hate America. They hate Western values. They hate Western religion. So that is the common denominator. And so you're seeing a lot of attacks being launched from, say, Lebanon, Jordan, all these other countries. And then the United States steps in, right? And we're shooting down drones that are being launched from these countries. The Red Sea right now is packed full of warships. So you have the Houthis, which are even backed by Iran, Saudi, and Yemen all together. They're actually taking over a lot of our U.S. cargo ships in maritime trade. I think there's an oil tanker right now, today, that was just captured. And so while it started with Hamas, it's spreading into a more regional conflict with other extremist organizations in that group. So that was exactly what we were worried about.
Yeah, and I think it was, and I hate to, well, I don't really care. It seems to me that was the goal the whole time.
Yeah,
I believe, I believe it was the goal, a mutual goal in some ways for both sides of this. I think it's important that Israel does pull us in. Obviously, that's we need to be there. I don't know why, but we need to. Right, that's my feel. Like we have to come. We have no choice. That's where I get into where I feel about things as far as, why I don't feel like anything should be a 51st state. And I get a little concerned when there's too much of, well, we've seen it through the years. The way we have to treat Israel is like no other. We don't treat anyone like that. We treat them better than we treat one of our territories, like when Puerto Rico, whatever it might be. Yeah, right. Thank you. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I agree with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if we get involved in every conflict around the world, we are never going to stop fighting, and we just lose focus more on the fights at home here. Now, I think, was it Nancy Pelosi that said it referred to as Israel as the 51st state?
Yeah, I think it was her. Yeah.
I think that's highly irresponsible and not a very diplomatic thing to say, because now what you see is that isn't going to deter these other organizations from attacking Israel and launching strikes. It's just going to empower them, because to them now they feel that any attack on Israel is an attack on the United States. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And then, of course, they know that, well, if we consider them a 51st state, we're going to end up getting dragged into that. It's almost like we're being baited into this in a way.
Well, and Nancy Pelosi aside, because with her, she's, they let Netanyahu speak in front of the Congress. I mean, he was stood there like he was a president. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
That tells you all you need to, in my eyes, all I need to know. Him being there could just be replayed over and over again. And yeah, she shouldn't have said that, but my God, it's obvious. I mean, you don't have that. I shouldn't have Zelensky either speaking to Congress in any way. It's maddening, because now, and I think we talked about this off air, there is no end to this. How many people, what's the count? I think you said it to me. What's the amount of whatever Palestinians that have to die before that ends? I don't know if there is one.
Yeah, what's the body count? Especially now when you see other organizations like Hezbollah, which is backed by Lebanon and Iraq. And then you have the Houthis, of course, which we talked about earlier. And then, of course, Hamas, but there's still a lot of other ones in the neighboring countries. And so you're right. Where does it end? And if these rebels in neighboring countries are launching attacks, and then we start counter-striking, the leaders over there aren't going to stand for that, especially when they're a part of the BRICS nations, right? They're a part of the bloc. So of course you're going to have China and Russia and India all condemn those strikes. And then you have what started as a regional conflict is now, well, I would say an isolated conflict between two countries has now sparked into a regional conflict, and now it's more of a global conflict. where we have the West versus the East.
How does Western Europe treat this, do you think? Like, where, you know what I mean? Like, where are they involved in all this? Like, I just don't seem to see them being, like, I don't see Netanyahu going to parliament. I just don't see this kind of, like, why aren't, you think they would be involved? It's actually on their side of the river. I mean, geez. You'd think they would have a little more interest in this than we would. But we know why we do, right? I mean, we know why, because we know what they got, what they have. They have it all. And I think we prove this when we continue to do this, I think.
Well, where have they been for Ukraine, right? It's always Zelensky that's here. Where are the European nations when it's time to fork over 9% of their GDP, towards the what is it, the UN? Is it the UN? So a lot of them, there's only a handful of countries that actually fork over those dues, and we pay the majority of that. So once again, this is, America is it's what every country aspires to be. And because we have such a status on the world stage, we are caught just forking over the bill and filling in the gaps for these other countries that make these commitments and they don't fulfill them. And that's how I feel. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see any other countries forking over the kind of cash that we are. And just because we don't even have it, we are deficit spending. Okay. We had planned our interest payments on our debt was supposed to be $500 billion, and then the Fed came out and said it's $1 trillion. We don't have the money. We're just printing more, which is devaluing our currency, combined with the strengthening of the BRICS nations as they move away from the U.S. dollar for trade.
Isn't Saudi Arabia an interesting one? I mean, there's Dubai, there's everything else over there. They seem to really like the West coming over. I mean, to them, right? Think about all the money that we go there from, all the different sports, all the different things. American thing. When I'm watching, you can watch the golf, or you can watch the UFC or whatever. It looks like I'm in New York City. Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible place. That's Western. That to me is Westernized. That's Westernized. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing incredible buildings. I'm seeing all kinds of things. They're really a contradiction. What do you think of them?
Yeah, well, I don't know a whole lot about the Saudis. I mean, I know that, a lot of their royalty, they make all their money in oil, obviously. But I think the place that I would probably want to go to the most, if it were anywhere over there, would probably be the United Arab Emirates, Dubai.
Okay, right.
Right, which might be what you're thinking of, which actually
is
a neighbor of Saudi Arabia, but I don't think it actually. I think it's a separate country.
It is. That was my mistake. You're right.
No, you're fine. I knew exactly what you were talking about, though, because Dubai is basically party central over there for any vacationing Americans or anybody in those skyscrapers. They're awesome, but. So actually, like, breaking news as of just a little bit ago, let me pull this up here, because there have been some developments just in the last hour on this. The U.S. and the U.K. are going to perform military strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. So there you go. So now, in Yemen. So that means that UK and US rockets are going to fly over in Yemen. Yemen, as it stands right now, is not a part of the bloc, but I'm sure it will be condemned by them.
Right. Yeah. Horrible news.
It's terrible. And it's only going to get worse because, right, how many bodies is it going to take until Israel feels like they've been made whole?
And I'm assuming it's gonna never. I don't even know. Right? Is it? I mean, they want to redo the map, I'm sure. However they want to do it. I guess that's what it is. It's until they just submit or whatever. Until to the point where, like, you know what? It's ours. It's all. We're done. Here's the map. We draw it. It's a real problem. I understand why the U.S. I mean, I say what I said earlier. I mean, I get it. I mean, I know. I know some of it, but some of it I think is propaganda stuff to me. I mean, as far as them being whatever they're over there and amongst the Middle East, and there's Israel, our friend. But it still all goes back to money. It still all goes back to the power that Israel, wields here. I mean, in all honesty, and I don't know if anyone can argue this. They are it. I mean, they're next. You could almost say that little country owns us in a way. When they sneeze, we got to go over there with a Kleenex. We've got to do something. We can't let it go. Like, we couldn't have looked at that and not acted on what happened there. Even though we know Israel can do whatever they got to do. Yeah. Minus us. What's Palestine? They got it. They're done.
This was a huge embarrassment. The IDF is known for having a world-class military. And according to intelligence, they knew about these attacks that were coming and being planned. They had good intel on this about a year before it happened. And so what went wrong? There was obviously not a failure in intelligence, but a failure to act.
It's similar to, I guess, yeah.
And it makes you scratch your head and wonder, how can a world-class military, the IDF with the Iron Dome and everything, let this happen? Because that's what they did. Let's get real, people. They let it happen. They knew it was going to happen, and they did nothing. And now here we are. Now, it's not to say that they deserved it. Nobody deserves that, but that's the truth of the matter.
Well, yeah, they didn't protect their people, and that's Netanyahu himself and all that, and they flew in on hang gliders, I think, at one point or whatever. I mean, it wasn't really hidden. It's got that 9/11 feel, though. What did we know? We had good intelligence too, and didn't act. So you're right. I mean, you said it best there. I mean, they let it happen, and did they let it happen by mistake? Did they let it happen on purpose? I guess we'll never really know, right? I mean, how would we ever know? But I mean, I guess it does get our attention, and I assume that's like too kind of childish way to put it. But I feel like they get our attention. Obviously, our attention is all them now. That's why Zelensky is running around, like you said, begging for any attention. We don't even care anymore. I don't even see it anywhere. I don't see it really talked about much.
No.
So
no, not at all
anymore. Is it still happening, Dennis? Well, I don't even.
It's still happening. They're getting their asses kicked. I mean, I said it in the beginning, Ukraine is not going to win this war. Sorry, guys, but they're not going to. Russia's winning. Ukraine has made very little advancements or gains on the front. And Ukraine is now drafting elderly people and women to go fight. They're tapped.
Yeah.
Well, and, oh, by the way, the elections are canceled until the war is over, until Putin is completely eliminated.
Yeah. Oh, man, I don't know. We at some point, Israel will never be dealt with. I don't think the way that it should be, and I don't mean that militarily. I mean as far as how much we have to go over there to defend somebody who you just said it. Iron Dome. They have the defenses. They have incredible. They're better than us, I guess, when it comes to intelligence or right on us, whatever equals. I don't know, man. There comes a point where it's even though when you had President Trump, who would have been more that America first, he's still as well beholden to them. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. So hold on a minute. I got a question here. I want to read. It's directed to you. I'll read it for you. Okay, Dennis? It's a long one. It's from Chris. What do you think of former President Trump? He's asking a question about when he went to go meet General Kim in North Korea to show him respect, to say where the U.S. stands, but no other U.S. president ever went there. What did you think of when that act happened, Dennis?
I thought it was admirable. I thought it was ballsy. He crossed over the DMZ. I believe he was the first president in American history to ever cross over that DMZ, and that takes balls, right? To go into North Korea and do that. But you know what? A lot of people might not like Trump, and a lot more people probably don't like Kim Jong-un, But the fact of the matter is, Kim Jong-un respected us. You know, with Donald Trump calling him the Rocket Man, it was hilarious. We loved it. But Kim Jong-un never met his maker before. And it takes somebody like that to put these people in place, because at least with Donald Trump, you know where you stand, right? And you know what's going to happen. He makes no mistake. He doesn't mince words. Sometimes he talks too much, but he's a man of action. And I think we saw it. Now we're seeing a lot of provocation over in North Korea, where they're firing now ballistic missiles over the south again, in these I don't know, these zones that are very close to the border of North and South Korea, and it's worrying a lot of people. Kim Jong-un just released a statement the other day, and he said that he doesn't care about firing any kind of missiles. North Korea is actually supplying missiles to Hamas and all these other neighboring countries. North Korea is supplying missiles to Russia, okay, so that they can fight Ukraine. I don't think any of that would have happened on Donald Trump's watch. As a matter of fact, I don't think this Ukraine nonsense would have happened on Donald Trump's watch.
Yeah, and it would have been interesting to see what would have happened with the invasion there on October. I can't remember the date now in Israel. How that would have transpired with him there. You just wonder. You make a good point. He was just a totally different guy. Just totally different. We don't even know. You can't even. No one's ever been like that. I remember Obama saying something where he talked about having to go, and it was really interesting because then I know Trump got condemned for it when he said you should meet you should always go meet with your enemy, your rival. Why wouldn't you?
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, and that's what you do. You need open channels of communication. Being a president, this is a diplomatic role. Hey, Noel, I hope you feel better. I've never said who I support here, but I think everybody can take a guess. I didn't vote for this shit. I'll just put it that way.
Right. Yeah, no, let me make something clear too on Israel-Palestine, because I just don't think it comes off a little bit weird. I don't care about, I hate all of what happened to those Israelis. The way that they were attacked, the all of it was disgusting. The kids, the raping, the murder, the whole deal and like animals, terrible, horrible. When I'm talking about Israel and all that, it has nothing to do with that. That's terrible anywhere in the world where that happens. Now, I don't think we care that much when it happens in other places in the world, but honestly, when it comes to Israel Palestine, I don't know if I have enough. You tell me, and I'm being serious. Why should I not care? Care's the wrong word. Why should I be worried about Israel and what they do? I know the answer, but I want you to answer it. To Hamas. Let's talk about Hamas. Like, why should I, as an American here, worry? Like, why should I care about Hamas over there?
Why you should care about Hamas?
Yeah.
You shouldn't. They're a terrorist organization. Now, we should care about Palestinians that are not a part of Hamas, because those are innocent civilians. However, if you want to get all choked up on civilian casualties, I didn't hear a fucking peep out of anybody when there were over 100,000 civilian casualties in the Afghanistan or Iraq war. So, people are getting all bent out of shape about this, but the fact of the matter is Palestine was largely, Gaza especially, was largely Hamas controlled. Over half, the majority of the people in Gaza were affiliated with Hamas. I mean, they cut up municipal water lines to use them as housing for rockets and other kind of munitions. So they don't give a shit about their people. They use them as shields. Now, why do I care about Israel? I care about Israel, but I don't care enough about Israel to go send my son or daughter over there. Okay, let's be real. I wouldn't do that. Okay, this is their war, not ours. However, I care about Israel because, in the sense that I believe it is the only democratic country over there, really. But really, it's a threat on Israel is a threat to the West is because of how it's perceived, right? Especially when we refer to it as our 51st state. So when you talk about Western culture and values and religion, Israel is it for that region. That and let's be real, Jesus Christ and Bethlehem and all that. So
I see. I somewhat don't know if they really. I sometimes don't know if really. Well, it is because that's the perception about Christianity with over there, and an attack on Christianity.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is with them. I don't even know if they really care. I don't think they care much for Christians in Israel. I don't think so, because I read stuff about what they have done to churches over there and stuff. So that's what I mean. It's perception possibly over reality. I wouldn't know. I'm not there, but that's sometimes how I feel about it, because I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure what they really. I mean, Christianity over there, there's not much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I don't care enough to send my son or daughter over there. I wouldn't go fight for them. Sorry, right. I wouldn't. We have enough battles here. Help starts at home. So like I said, I didn't vote for that. But speaking of voting,
yeah,
I think we should segue into the next topic. So election integrity, which kind of goes hand in hand with January 6th. This is a hot button topic. You hear all the time our elected officials want to go on TV and say that we have fair and safe elections. We know that that's not the case. It's simply not the case, especially with our open borders. We know what the end game is here. The end game is to have all of these illegals flood in. This is a new voter base for the Democrats. Okay, they're going to give them the right to vote. And how does that affect our election integrity? Well, it's no longer the will of the American people that's deciding the fate of our elections. It's these people that were shipped in, a new voter base that was shipped in ultimately. And they talk about fair and safe elections because we have computers and tabulators. Tell me, why is it that Argentina can hand count 30 million ballots, okay, in a day? And yet it takes us weeks with machines for swing states. Something ain't right here.
Yeah.
Something is not right. And what we need for fair and safe elections is we need paper ballots, we need voter IDs, and we need same-day voting. That's it. And we saw the widespread fraud, election fraud that occurred in the last election that we had, the last primary. It was everywhere. You're having more and more people come out about it. You look at a company called GBI Strategies. They are a voting canvassing company. Okay. It was just announced, according to Michigan State Senator Ruth Johnson, who's a former Secretary of State. She told the Gateway Pundit, quote, "My estimate is over 100,000 ballot applications were sent to non-qualified voters in Michigan. There was massive 2020 voter fraud uncovered in Michigan. They found that the ballots were sent to non-qualified voters. They actually raided GBI Strategy headquarters. They found bags of prepaid gift cards, guns with silencers, burner phones, and they had multiple facilities in different states." Okay, I actually have some stuff we can pull up on that. Let me share this here real quick.
Yeah.
And that's only the beginning, guys. And I'm going to go into the rest of it too. It's going to blow your mind. And people that think we have fair and safe elections, is simply not true. They're not transparent. They covered up the windows. I mean, they're dropping off ballots in the dead of the night with out-of-state tags at all of these drop-off locations. They're taking pictures of their ballot mules. We know this from geofencing data that shows that there were at least 2,000 ballot mules that were filling out fraudulent ballots and dropping them off. So we got, let me see, present.
Yeah, it is fun. Think of back in Florida, way back when, with the Hannon Chad stuff.
Yes,
that was nothing compared to what's going on here now. Oh, here we go.
So the rear storage room office had items associated with the manager. They found dozens of new phones and boxes, hundreds of prepaid payment cards. They found unopened an address which was redacted, and the cards were from 2 different companies. Let's see, they found semi-automatic rifles joined with suppressors and optics and customized pistols. The weapons were field tested and they were fully automatic, but they were examined to be found legal. 4 rifles, 4 pistols. Another case had 1 rifle, and the second weapon was a short-barreled rifle but qualified as a pistol with a folding stock. So, right? One of the categories, hot topics, they listed weapons in the field. Why are these voting canvassers going out with tons of prepaid cards, okay, and weapons with silencers out in the field? Not to mention, they found 800,000 fraudulently filled out ballots. This is how they do it, and this is only one thing of many. You know, one other example. This was from a Facebook group, and it was a closed Facebook group for some election workers. Okay, and they were stunned when they started getting all of these voter registration forms the day before the election marked as PPE equipment for COVID. And I'll read this. Today, I was hopeful the rest of our PPE supplies would finally arrive tomorrow. Instead, we received 185 voter registration applications, many dates in June. There were several envelopes labeled as masks, but when opened, they're registrations. I don't know if I'm numb and shock or just getting used to the new way elections are now handled the day before the election. This group was removed. This was scrubbed. I took pictures of this before it was removed. It's out there. There are tons of other workers that blew the whistle on this, that said, hey, look, something ain't right. But they were removed. They were silenced. No pun intended with the silencer earlier. But they were silenced, maybe in more ways than one. Who knows? And they were, any evidence of it was just completely removed. This is gone now. The group doesn't exist. But nothing is ever gone forever.
Ever.
So we know that really, our elections are not safe. We need to do something about this. And then you look at January 6th, right? January 6th, what was that? It wasn't an insurrection. It was a protest. It wasn't like the Black Lives Matter protests I'm not even going to call it a protest because the Black Lives Matter, they rioted. They destroyed all kinds of stuff. I mean, they declared a autonomous zone. They called it CHOP. Remember that?
Yeah.
In Oregon. I mean, one of these things is not like the other.
Right.
You've even got the Democratic Association called Act Blue, which is a major fundraiser. That's the largest fundraising company or nonprofit, I should say, for the Democratic Party. They engaged. What they do is they get thousands of dollars through small donors, like senior citizens, but they're mostly illegal contributions. The donors they're not even aware that they made a donation or consent, because when they donate, they're not required to put a CVV on file for the card that they're using to pay with. A gentleman, James O'Keefe from O'Keefe Media Group, went through, because all of these political donations are public record. He went through and visited the houses of these people that apparently made, 2,000 donations of $20 at a time. I mean, like, these people are unemployed. He went up to their house and said, do you remember donating $20,000 in the last election? And they just started laughing. They go, I'm unemployed. I'm on disability. I didn't do that.
Wow.
This is widespread fraud that's everywhere. And this is only one of them. O'Keefe Media Group blew the lid on this. And a lot of people didn't know that, but it's out there. You can find it. These people were stunned to find out that they were living on a fixed income, yet somehow they donated $10,000, $20,000 without any income at all. It's wild. So we go back to January 6th. January 6th, we know because the tapes were released. It was nothing but a nothing burger with a side of lies.
Yeah.
Capitol Police let them in. They gave them a tour. We also know now that, according to Representative Higgins, he identified that there were 200 undercover assets, confidential informants, registered informants, non-registered informants, and voluntary informants that were all working with the FBI. They were paid provocateurs, is what they were. And they were all dressed up as Trump gear. I have a video. I want to roll two videos. First of all, I want to roll a video of the open borders and how that affects voting and election integrity. And then the second video I want to show the audience is January 6th, the Capitol Hill's doors opening, and then what Representative Higgins said about the 200 assets. So you don't just hear it from me. Hear it from some people that matter. So here is, which Congresswoman is this? This is Congresswoman, if I can get her name here. I want to try to get her name on this because I don't have her name, but I'll get it after. I forget the woman's name, but let's pull this up here. I'm gonna play the video. Let's go back to this.
There was
from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
Wow.
You heard it.
Wow.
We want the illegals in for redistricting purposes because that's their voter base. We said it in the last episode that's the end game.
Yeah.
It's the great replacement theory, folks, and I got news for you. The great replacement theory has nothing to do with white supremacy. It doesn't have to do with replacing white people. It has to do with replacing language and the things we thought we knew through conditional programming. So we hear it over and over and over again, and we start to accept that as truth. We replace what we think is an American, right? We start there. What is an American? Now it's not a U.S. citizen. It's anybody that hops over the fucking border, right? That now has an ability to determine the outcomes in local and national elections, right? It's replacing the parent with state educators who think that they know better than the parents. It's replacing the women, right? Because now anybody can identify as a woman. It doesn't matter. So the great replacement theory, it is about rewriting the language and just pummeling everybody with misinformation constantly. It's called Operation Mockingbird when the CIA infiltrated the media. It never stopped. It just kept going and going. That's why we hear the media repeat the same things over and over and over again. We saw it with the Bolsheviks in the USSR. We saw it in the Red Revolution in China. They rewrite the language. They constantly flood us with everything that they can about the narrative that they want to spin off. And then we start to accept it as normal. It's just like the LGBTQ extremist movement, right? First we tolerate, then we accept, then we celebrate. First we tolerate the invaders coming in, then we accept it, and then we celebrate it. It's the same playbook. Welcome. This is called social Marxism, folks, for those that aren't familiar with it. And why did they use January 6th? Because they know that an insurrection is the only charge under the 14th Amendment that would disqualify somebody for running for presidency.
Right.
So that's why you had Liz Cheney come out and put together that sham select committee with all these people on there. And they claim, what did they claim? They said it was the worst attack on our Capitol in history. Really? Do you not fucking remember the War of 1812? They almost burned the Capitol to the fucking ground. It was nothing. Let me show you what January 6th was, everybody.
The following footage was obtained from the United States Department of Justice. It contains surveillance video of the Upper West Terrace doors of the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Just after 2:33 p.m., police officers allow 5 individuals to exit the Capitol through the Upper West Terrace doors. At 2:34 p.m., a gentleman holding an American flag catches the door just as the last protester leaves. He turns to the crowd outside and waves towards the door. At the same time, at 2:34 p.m., a gentleman with a red cap approaches the interior doors. As the police officer notices him, he continues to approach. The police officer holds the door for the protester as he enters the Capitol undeterred. At 2:35 p.m., a large group enters the interior of the Capitol, police standing at the doors. As a steady stream of protesters enter through the Upper West Terrace doors, they can see police officers standing at the interior doors, allowing people to pass. Around 250 protesters entered through the Upper West Terrace doors that day, many of which are charged with felony obstruction for entering a building undiscouraged. At 2:36 p.m., a police officer walks towards the exit against the flow of protesters. He then turns around and begins walking with the protesters. He turned his back to them and never took a posture that was defensive or that would indicate that he feared being harmed. At 2:36:54, the police allow the crowd to pass. At 2:38 p.m., a woman with a sock hat and a camera with a sound recording device attached to it films police as they allow people to enter. A steady stream of individuals pass by police as they stand aside without deterring protesters for several minutes.
All right, I'm going to cut it there. You get the point. Okay. Now, let's never forget the name Ashley Babbitt. Okay, because there was only one fatality that day, and it was by a trigger-happy Secret Service agent who later received a promotion for that. He shot dead a mother, a wife, and she was a military veteran. Okay, she was unarmed. There was only one person that died that day. Now, they'll say that there were Capitol police officers that died. No, he didn't die in the line of duty, that officer. He died from natural causes after. He was not on duty that day. It's a bunch of lies. It's misinformation is what it is that they're spreading to make this out to be something that it's not, because they know that it's the only charge that they can ever use to disqualify Trump. They want him so bad, they will say whatever they possibly can to stop him from running. Okay. And that's all that this is. Now the Capitol Hill building is like a labyrinth. It's like a maze. Right. So for them to go, like, you know, in the chambers and everything like that, they were escorted there.
Yeah.
They were 100%. They were escorted there. It wasn't. There was only one person who ordered people to storm the Capitol. That gentleman's name is Ray Epps. And I have no problem coming on here. I hope all my FBI friends out of the Buffalo field office are watching. Ray Epps is a fucking Fed. He was the only one who ordered the protesters in that day. It was a closed door hearing, closed trial. Nobody knows what was said. There is the January 6th protesters received a combined sentence of over 800 years in prison. And Ray Epps got 6 months probation and a fine. Okay. let's hear what Representative Higgins has to say about the FBI assets that were planted there that day.
When you say that there were FBI assets in the crowd, in the building beforehand and certainly outside, what's the scale of this? Are you talking like 10, 20?
No. So real hard, objective, and conservative estimates would put the number of FBI assets in the crowd, outside, and working inside at well over 200.
200?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have seen evidence, and that spurred your questions to Chris Wray, that there were FBI assets dressed as Trump supporters within the Capitol. So that is proof of entrapment, because, of course, the federal government could have prevented entry into the Capitol building. There aren't that many doors. You work there, you know. But they allowed people in on purpose to entrap them. That's what that proves, I think. Does it not?
Well, it's certainly condemning. It's another piece of the strategy that the government employed to sort of complete the entrapment of Americans that they had infiltrated and then prodded and provoked with online with those original seeds planted of actions like, you know, what type of gear to wear and just in language that incited behavior that could go the wrong way. You know, pushing actions of legal and legitimate peaceful protest to an edge where those Americans would likely not have gone had they not been, you know, encouraged by the FBI plant amongst their number that they didn't know was there. So by the time it...
And who is the FBI plant? That was Epps. That was Epps.
And when I'm thinking about it being just a regular, if I'm there and the police are letting me do it, I'm going to figure, okay, it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying destroy stuff, but let's say just me walking in and going, why would I think anything's wrong? The police are escorting me. They're opening the door. This is, I mean, if you haven't seen that stuff, it's so obvious what it is, I think, that it shouldn't even be a question anymore of what it was. But, you know, it's being, like you said, it's being used for the 14th Amendment, just a tool to stop one guy from being on a ballot.
Yeah. And so when you add up all these things, right, you had the COVID restrictions and lockdowns, the push for mail-in voting, and the widespread fraud that we've seen with the mail-in voting. And then you see now, right, this is the definition of election interference. Now you have unelected bureaucrats like attorney generals and, you know, DA, like renegade DAs and all that. So these attorney generals that are in place, they're appointed, right? I think they're appointed by the governor. And then you have these judges that are appointed by past presidents, and they don't have any term limits. So you have a lot of Obama era Supreme Court justices and everything like that. So you have bureaucrats that have been in these positions for a while that are not elected by the American people. And now suddenly they're going to remove a candidate from the ballot, okay, and force the will of the American people. The last time they removed a candidate from the ballot was in the Lincoln era, and that resulted in the Civil War.
Yeah. Now, how many ballots is Trump? Is there any that he has been removed from right now that we know of? Or?
I think Colorado, Iowa, and maybe one other one, and you know, and then you have to go to the appellate division.
Yeah,
and it's very political. You know, and even if you go to the U.S. Supreme Court, there's going to be some people that are, you know, they were appointed by Obama or whomever, and they're going to stay loyal to the person that put them there. That's why they want to pack the court. That's why when you talk about packing the court, that's why.
And I would have to say to anybody that is, whether you're, whatever you do, whatever you vote for, this, you wouldn't want to allow, I can't imagine anyone is for, I can't even believe it, but that's just, I can't get into the mindset of not wanting someone on the ballot. Like, it doesn't matter. Let them on the ballot. It doesn't matter what they are, what they do, unless they're disqualified because of the, you know, how it works. But other than that, you would let them on the ballot because obviously then they won't win, right? Wouldn't that be what you'd think? But I mean, we know why, but I'm just saying, how could you sit there, not, the people, I don't care if you're a Democrat, whatever you are, and I've always been, I know it's been said 1,000 million times. How do you think, oh yeah, this guy, no way. I don't, it just isn't normal. It isn't American way anyway, anything. It's insane. And it drives me. The Iowa caucus starts this week or next week, whatever, I think on Monday.
Yeah.
So we're here. Here it is.
Yeah.
Starting again.
Yeah, this is
what's
election interference. This is what it is. And people need to wake up, and I think that a lot of people are. This is the great awakening that we're experiencing here. A lot of people are realizing that something isn't right. And we need to stand up. We need to the way that people the way that you reject people from being in power is simple. You reject it. You don't accept it. So you do things like I'm a software engineer. I didn't want to do podcasts. Why am I doing this? Because I love my country. And when my son gets older and asks me why the world is so fucked up, it's not because I did nothing. And that's what it's about. It's about future generations. It's why we do this. It's why I'm here. And I think a lot of people are seeing this. There's a lot of people that still haven't woken up. But this is not the will of the American people. It's up to us to decide. So if he gets removed from the ballot, write him in.
Right.
Yeah. That's who you want to vote for, and he's not on the ballot, write him in. If you want to vote for Jesus, write him in.
Right. Right.
Don't let them tell you who you're going to vote for or who you can't vote for.
Removal from the ballot is unfucking real. It really is. I mean, you can't even. It just doesn't make sense. I've seen crackheads run for mayor. I've seen all kinds of things happen. No one's removed. Right here in my own city, I'm watching freaking whatever you want to call them, guys that are fucking. They were in the government and getting arrested, brought to prison, coming back, and they're still on the ballot. You know what I mean? No one stops these people because you're not supposed to be stopped. But anyways, man, it's. There was something I was going to ask you. Damn it. It just slipped my mind. Talking about the replacement stuff, though, because we went down the road, obviously, it started with LGBTQ and the whole thing about replacement there. It was more like, I know we got into the teacher thing. We got into that, or, the teacher.
Yep.
But that woke up some people because I heard people talking there. Now, maybe they don't get it, that it's all a part of it. It's all together. But you were just explaining it. I mean, it's just not that. It's everything. And I think there are people waking up. And I also think some people need to step aside. Do you know what I mean? I think there's some people that might be a little bit older that might just want to step aside. If they don't want to, you know what I mean? Just step aside. Just go to the sidelines, because you're not helping. And to tell you the truth, it's going to be guys your age and younger that are probably going to fix this. I don't think people my age can. Because I'll tell you what, through all the years, you want to talk about 53 years, it's been beaten into your head. Yeah. You guys, you're a little bit younger, you had as much time. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, it is. It's up to us. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. And there's a lot more people out there like me that are starting to do this. And we're banding together. We're not accepting this. And we're demanding real change, because this has got to stop. We need to protect our sovereignty. We need to preserve our liberties, our rights, our God-given rights, and everything that made this country great. And help starts at home. We need to start working on our border. We could have built fortified border walls and rebuilt Maui with how much money, 120 billion we're up to now, that we've sent over to Ukraine. Cost $26 billion, according to the last estimate, to build a border wall. It costs $5 billion to rebuild Hawaii. What the fuck are we doing?
You know, and we're very sad, and we should be, about the atrocities, the terrible stuff, the children being, whatever's happening over there in Israel, the Middle East, wherever it may be. We're very sad. And we know what's happening right down there, right at the border, where the kids are being stolen. The whole kids being molested. The whole thing is happening right here for us. It's funny how we don't really care much as a country, I don't think.
No, we don't. And when you talk about the radical LGBTQ movement, and we talk about conditional programming, and you know, these mass formation psychosis, whatever you want to call it, where everybody all just suddenly hops on the same bandwagon with these extremist views. It's not natural. This is not an organic movement. It's similar to, you know, we look at the feminist movement. What did the feminist movement do? It didn't empower women. What it did was it told women that, hey, you don't need a man to do anything. You don't need a man in the house. You can do it all on your own. So guess what happened? Single mother households went up. Fatherless children statistics, you know, the amount of fatherless children went up. The amount of people on welfare went up. It didn't empower women. What it did was it you know, in this society where we teach people that we're a system of two, where you're either the oppressor or the oppressed, and the only way that the oppressed can overcome is to oppress the other group, right? That's what it is. We see it with the Black Lives Matter, what they did, and they took over a whole police station. We see it now in the LGBTQ movement. And just to give you guys an idea of this psychological conditioning programming that we see, it's all in the media, it's all in the books, it's all in social media that we see. So I'm going to pull up some charts. These are called Nexus charts. And what Nexus charts do is they track keywords that appear in every major news outlet, news article, and social media. And they track them and they form deltas, meaning they establish a baseline, and then you can see where it goes up and what percentage. So I'm going to share this real quick. So let's take a look at this nexus, and you can tell me if the LGBTQ was an organic movement or not. It's not. This is a social contagion combined with mental illness, guys. I'm going to come on here and say there are two genders. You can't change it. Okay. If you're confused about who you are, you have a mental illness. Okay. And I'm not going to affirm it for the same reason why I wouldn't affirm liposuction for somebody with anorexia, because it doesn't treat it. You're making it worse. Okay. And I don't accept that. And I encourage other people not to accept it, because we're falling further away from the truth, and it's crumbling our society. Okay, we are never going to be able to evolve as a society if we just choose to ignore biology and science and rewrite history so that it can be more acceptable and more diverse and more inclusive. I do not give a shit about your feelings. I give a shit about facts. Now, I am sympathetic to people with mental illness. However, I'm not going to affirm it.
Right.
So let's take a look at these Nexus charts here. I'm going to pull these up. There you go. Average frequency across 27 million articles. It goes all the way back to 1970. Look what you see here. Does this look like an organic movement? Does it look like a nice steady slope? You know, gender inequality, right. Anti-feminist, right? Sexist, transphobes. Transphobes wasn't even something that was even mentioned until 2018, 2019.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So when you talk about, oh, there's an attack on trans people and inequality, really, did these people just wake up one fucking day and just say, oh, you know, I think I'm going to be trans? Because according to these charts, that's what it tells me. Yeah. This isn't an organic movement. This wasn't something that naturally happened over time, and here we are. Otherwise, you'd see a gentle slope on these charts. I've done data science before and computer programming. My background is software engineering. I know how to work big data. This is not organic. This is something that's manufactured. And it's manufactured through conditional programming. And everything that we read and everything that we see. You know, I don't care. When I get on an airplane, I don't care how diverse the staff is. I care about making it to my destination. So today, you know, American Airlines was touting the fact that they 80% of their graduates are of diverse backgrounds. They're either women or they're people of different ethnic minorities. How do you hire? It's statistically impossible for you to hire, for you to have 80% of your new graduates of a diverse background like that, that means that you're not hiring based on merits. You're hiring based on race to check a box under diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yep.
Over half of the students at the University of Brown now identify as non-binary or gender non-conforming. How does that happen? It's not organic.
No.
For these people just to wake up one day and just be confused. You have people that aren't even, they don't even think that they're, look at teacher, for example. They don't even think that they're male or female. They think that they're neither. Really? Because in the history of mammals, there's always been a male and a female. Always. John, if I were to give birth today, I'd break over 200 bones in my body. Why? Because I'm not a female. I don't have the breaking attributes for it.
Right. No.
So how do these doctors treat patients, right? If they identify as a female. So if I go to a doctor and I have abdominal cramping, are they going to give me a pregnancy test? And this is what happens. How do we provide accurate, scientifically backed treatment to people when we ignore biology and science because we want to appease to the radicals?
We had a woman, if you remember, you might remember, Dennis, that her daughter identified as a cat and was very upset that she couldn't go to a veterinarian.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's unbelievable. No,
So here's more, right? Gender discrimination, white supremacy, racist, xenophobia, right? Bigotry. And this is how they do it. Conditional programming. Here's a YouTube's kids channel. You got this satanic looking, whatever it is over here, gay pride flags, queer kid stuff. How old is that kid?
gosh, yeah.
And what this is mentally ill parents. It's a sign of Munchausen by proxy is what it is the medical term for this, where these parents convince everybody else, including the kids, that they have something wrong with them or that they're different. They have cancer. They have this. These parents are convincing the kids that, oh, you like to wear dresses? You must be gender nonconforming. And they push it. And then what they do is they put them on display for everybody to see so that they can virtue signal. And they can say, look at my child. Let's all welcome it. Let's embrace it. Let's embrace the genital mutilation of my child that we call gender affirming care so that I can get more likes on YouTube. This is it. This is how we do it. Right?
Yeah.
And we see it in the colleges with the radicals that are backing Hamas. And a lot of it is LGBTQ. Go over in Hamas and wave that LGBTQ flag. See what happens. I dare you. See what happens. They'll cut your head off in a heartbeat. They don't like you.
Right.
That's all it is. Psychological conditioning. You know, and we can go on and on and on. These charts, they don't lie. This is data. You can't refute the data. But the one thing that's booming is welfare. So don't worry. So it's really it's wild to think about, and you put all these things into perspective.
Well, everything is let happened, right? I mean, we talked about like January 6th, Black Lives Matter, all that the government, we allowed it. It was allowed, you know, or even encouraged, I assume. It was. We know that the government allowed what happened in the Black Lives Matter stuff that went on. They allowed January 6th. They pushed it. They asked for it. They wanted it. So all of it has been done. And this is what I take from all of this. All of this has been done with the United States government's help, backing, and full, you know, they can act appalled, but we know they're not.
No, they're not. They're not. And this is just to splinter and fracture society so that there's so much infighting and we're too caught up in this. And what it is a giant distraction. But I've said it before. What it is it's chaos. And chaos is instability. And instability is opportunity. The goal is to replace. It's the great replacement theories. That's what it is. It's not about white supremacy. It's about replacing everything that we thought we knew, from what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a parent, And it's replacing the family unit and traditional family values with state, is what it is, and state indoctrination. It's interesting because when you look at those nexus graphs, right? Guess what? The one thing that hasn't changed. Here's Google Ngram for women's rights. Nobody gives a shit about women's rights.
Right.
And I don't know how these women that were a part of the feminist movement, where are they? Where are you? When you wanted to stand up and break free from the reins of the man, right? And you did that, and you're a strong, independent woman. Now you're getting erased off the map. They are literally getting their asses kicked in women's sports. Nobody's protecting them. Women and children used to be a protected minority. They're not anymore.
Yeah.
They're not.
No, they're not. Absolutely not. And you're right. Where are they? That's a great question. Never thought of it. Where are they? I got a few comments here. She says, you mean birthing person.
Exactly. Change the language. Birthing person.
This formulation will be the last chance to stop all this, Jerry says. Talking about Trump, he said that this coming election. Yeah, this coming election, I can't even imagine I can't even imagine what comes next. That's all I'm thinking of. What has to happen next? Because I believe you're going to have Trump. He's going to be the nominee. It's going to happen. What happens next if they feel he needs to be stopped? I don't know, because they pulled out all the stops last time. I mean, COVID was unbelievable. That was like the Twilight Zone. You remember walking how quiet? It was the bizarrest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The businesses are still closed. Commercial real estate is a dumpster fire. 26% of commercial offices right now are vacant. Mortgages, they're defaulting. This is going to completely crush the markets. People have no idea what's coming to them. I follow financials. I worked in the financial sector for 10 years. Okay. I know, I can see the writing on the wall.
Right.
I know what's going to happen. And a lot of these other people, they don't get it. If you haven't woken up already, it's too late.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, by the looks of it though, right? I mean, as you're looking at the election coming forward, there's no Republicans going to be, Trump's going to be it. He's the nominee of the Republican. He is. It's over pretty much. And the only way he'd have to drop out. It's the only way he loses. He can't. I mean, I figure after Iowa, it might be done for DeSantis, and then it's really over. So here we go. What can you do? I mean, it's going to be Biden, Trump again.
So here's what's going to happen, and I agree with Vivek on this one. It's going to be Nikki Haley, former UN secretary, I think, something like that, and then it's going to be Ron DeSantis as her VP. Nikki Haley's. So basically, you're going to have two Republicans, right? And that are going to go up against Trump. That's how I think that this is going to shake out. But it doesn't matter. The good news is, guys, it might not feel like we're winning, but we are winning. And the reason why I know that we're winning is because of such desperate lengths and measures that they are going to completely crush the will of the American people, trample our rights, rewrite history. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. You have congresswomen coming right out and saying, yeah, we want the illegals to come in for redistricting. They're not even trying to hide it. We're winning. We're winning, and they are fucking panicking because they know. They know.
They know. They got to know, because you wouldn't go through, I mean, what they went, the lengths they've gone. That's what makes me wonder what's the next thing, because it's going to, I can't even imagine. Some of the things I think of are unbelievable. I mean, assassination, what's next? I mean, how far do you go to end what has started? And like you said, when the last time they did this was civil war. Yeah. So
to all those American families out there, get a gun, protect your house. If there's anybody watching in New York, I'm going to make this quick. I don't want to elaborate too much on it. If you can't get a gun in New York, buy a black powder 6-shooter revolver, get it online. It'll be shipped to your door. No ID required. It has a serial number. It's completely legal. They will ship it to your house. No signature required. What you can do is you can then buy a conversion cylinder to fit that gun so it shoots a jacketed round. The moment that you have all the components to make it fire, black powder, the caps, the balls to go in there, or if you have the conversion cylinder, you're supposed to have it registered. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm not an attorney. I'm not encouraging anyone to do this. But if in the event you have to protect your family, if it was good enough for the Civil War the first time, it'll be good for the second one if it comes to that. So protect your families, start planning, because the terrorists are here. There's over 754 of them that we know of that have gotten across this border so far that are living here in the United States. So,
can I say one other thing about the terrorism too?
Yeah.
It's also, and I hate to say this, because it's also happening. They're elected. They're also a problem. Like the actual elected people. That woman just said it. They're allowing all of it to happen. You almost have to protect yourself from them as well.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But how do we got to get them out of there?
Yeah. And I know how. I hope it can happen. I mean, God, because the last time it just, COVID was something I've never, it made people conform that didn't want to. It made all kinds of things happen because it was like an apocalypse in a lot of ways, looking at it, what it was like.
Yeah.
So scary time because I don't know what's next.
Yeah. We don't know what's next. It's why keep your family close, talk to your kids, plan, prepare. And it's the saying always goes, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah. There you go.
So I think on that note, I know that we're over a little bit, but I think this was a really great show. There were some topics we didn't get to, but that's fine because it gives us content for the next one. So anything, questions, or we can just let it go. What's up?
So we'll be back on, we're going to go, this was just because of a scheduling issue. We'll be back on Wednesday. We're going to go Wednesday, just so everyone knows. We might have to adjust the time. Maybe we'll do it at 7. We'll see how you feel, Dennis, how it's working. But for right now, tentatively 6. But if it is 7, we'll put it out there and let you know.
It might go to 7. I actually have a day job, and that's kind of tough to get here in time. So
7 is probably a good one.
Yeah, we'll see. And for the audience listening, if there's any topics you want to hear or talk about, if I don't know about it, I will research the hell out of it, and we'll talk about it. And that's what we do. And we have open discussion. And if there's anybody that even wants to come on and talk about something, or even challenge me or challenge, we'll just have an open discussion. That's what life's about. So this is how we move forward.
Okay. Excellent.
So thank you, everybody, very much. Thank you, John. Robin, I'm glad you're doing a little better. It was good to hear you in there. Noelle, I hope you feel better. I heard Jerry in there. So I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Stay safe. God bless America.